Beep, 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 beep. Hello, people. Become a warrior teacher, would you? Adverts going up shortly. Oh, yes, exciting stuff. Exciting times coming. Very exciting. Come and join the team. And if you can buy me a coffee, please do. It'd be really helpful. Or do a super thanks. Anything that can help out. But most of all, subscribe and share, subscribe and share. Subscribe, notifications, clickety-click. You know how to do it. I've got another article for you, which is sort of appropriate in terms of what it seems to be that's blowing wind up everybody's backside today. So here we go. It's from Spiked, from the marvellous Joanna Williams, columnist. And it's how parents are kept in the dark about sex education, and it's really revealing some of this. It's not stuff that I don't know, but it's stuff you may not know, or it's stuff that you may not have engaged with yet. So let's throw it up the flagpole and see who salutes. Sex and relationship classes are becoming more explicit and ideological. You bet, Joanna. Who should decide what children are taught about sex and relationships? Parents or teachers? Question mark. For most of the past 5 decades, the answer would have been parents. Parents were able to withdraw their children from sex education lessons that went beyond the basics of sexual reproduction. That's how it always was. That's how it always was. That's how it always was. And when I had it, right, it was, this is a dick. This is, you put in there and baby. Oh, and that was it. There might be some pleasure. Here's a video about chickens. It wasn't a video, it was a film. And the person that gave the sex education classes was the vicar. Innocent times. We had a lesson once about sheep shearing. That was more explicit than the session about sex. Didn't mention gay people, we didn't exist. We were the ones that were sort of lying and bleeding in the playground, but we didn't exist, right? For most of us, the past decades, parents would have been the ones that were making the decisions. They would draw the kids from it if it was beyond the basics of sexual reproduction. In practice, very few parents went to such lengths, but notionally they had some control over what their children were taught. This changed in 2020. Updated government policies made relationship education mandatory in all schools. I don't have an issue with that, right? It being mandatory, but I do have an issue with it being relationship education, because that's social emotional learning. And these bullshit merchants, the critical social justice bullshit merchants, love this crap. They love it. So it should be sex education. Forget relationship education. Fuck off. Mind your own business. Right? No, shouldn't exist. Okay? Not the school's job, I'm afraid. And that's going to upset quite a few people, but not the school's job. End of story. You want to do that? Set up a separate organisation where parents can go to you. Okay? That's what it should be. Which parents pay for, by the way. Just to get it clear here. Because if the parents paid for it, they pay more attention to what's in it, wouldn't they? Because there's so many who haven't bothered to look. Which, by the way, is understandable. You expect to be able to trust your schools and your teachers. Same with universities. This is what people, really need to understand, I suppose, is the betrayal. It's the betrayal. The betrayal of trust. It's outrageous. Classes in secondary schools now have to cover topics such as consent, sexual exploitation, online abuse, grooming, coercion, harassment, rape, domestic abuse, forced marriage, honour-based violence, and FGM. God, we're a fucking bunch of laughs, aren't we? Now, the issue is how's that being done? Now, so, what you've got to remember about critical social justice, in particular gender ideology, queer theory, is they're not telling the kids this is what this is. They are practicing it. They are practicing the things that we don't want in schools. Right? So they are building everything around power and oppression narratives so that they can produce activist students. That's the game. Okay? In addition, schools teach children about gender identity and same-sex relationships. Well, the two are completely different things, and you don't need to teach about same-sex relationships. It's really easy. Some men love men, some women love women, some women love men, and some men love women. There you go. Does everybody understand that's possible, right? That it's possible for two people to love each other because gays are a thing. Somebody asked a question at the session I was talking at last night. Why is this different? Why is gay? Why is gay why is gay not the same as trans? Because if you're born gay, you're born trans. And I said, well, because trans doesn't appear across the animal kingdom, being gay does. That's why. Okay. In addition, schools teach children about gender, etc. Parents maintain the right to withdraw their children from school education, from sex education. They cannot remove them from relationships education. Clever, see? This represents a significant blow to parental rights. It is now the state via teachers that determine what children are taught about relationships. You've seen Biden going on about this. There are children, they're not. This is the toxic parent of the state. Sunak needs to grasp this. I know he started, but he needs to grasp this is the toxic parent of the state. I want a neutered government, and the sooner the better. Ensuring that the lunatic left establishment and liberal establishment of the civil service, education, all the ones that, because they're populated by all these people, needs absolutely neutering. Now, the other thing you're going to have to be aware of as parents, and this is the most difficult bit, is they'll have this in the maths curriculum as well, and the geography curriculum, and the history curriculum, biology. So when they give an example, right, so there are two people, one is non-binary and one's trans. They'll do that. They'll have it. It's a cross-curriculum. So what you're looking at, we need some sort of penicillin to get it out of the curriculum. Truth, I think, and sunlight will do that. We'll see. It's difficult because they're going to teach RSHE as a single subject. Withdrawing children from sex education while they attend mandatory relationship lessons would probably require them to enter and leave a classroom at 5 minutes intervals. It is now practically impossible. That's not a mistake. That's deliberate. That's a feature. Right? So the answer to the question who decides what children are taught about sex and relationships has apparently been changed. It is not parents. It is the bureaucrats in the Department of Education who set the national curriculum. It is the schools and teachers who implement it. Activist groups and charitable organisations like the School of Sexuality Education. Creepy, innit? Creepy. And the Proud Trust play a major role too. These third parties sell their own ideologically driven resources and workshops to schools that are nervous about fulfilling their legal obligations. Parents expect to take a back seat and leave the professionals to get on with it. We were talking about this last night after we'd had our wonderful debate session. Well, it was a talk and then a bit of debate afterwards, and some people stayed. It was really interesting. I was saying, how many of you in this room needed to be taught how to play with yourself? None. How many of you in this room needed to be taught what a blowjob was? None. How many, leave people alone. You're just weirdos. Okay, leave people alone. The kids are in school 6 hours a day for a week. PSHE might be 6 hours in one fortnight. For all we know, God only knows, right? Okay? Are you telling me that the outside sources outside of that aren't doing more to help the child understand the world than that is? Just give them the basics and let them get on with it. It's none of your damn business. None of your damn business. Let them get on with it. But baby with bathwater, important stuff. Yep. How do we walk that fine line? That's a conversation to have. How do we walk that fine line between the baby and bathwater? So this prompts new questions about do parents have the right to know what their children are being taught about sex and relationships. Last week we got an answer. Shockingly, according to the courts, it's no. Mum Claire Page was told by a judge that cannot access the teaching materials used in her daughter's school sex education lessons. Her campaign to discover what children are being taught began in 2021 when her daughter returned home claiming to be sex positive and arguing that heteronormativity was a bad thing. You see what these people do? Page discovered that her daughter's school used resources provided by the School of Sexuality Education. She then tried to use freedom of information laws to demand the material currently used in around 300 schools. And she wanted those materials made publicly available, understandably so, but the School of Sexuality Education refused to publish its lesson plans. Red flag! The Information Commissioner's Office backed this decision, ruling that the charity's commercial interest in keeping its resources private outweighed the public interest in publishing them. This is absolutely insane, isn't it? They're teaching about the most basic of human things, that which keeps the race going, right? They're teaching about relationships. They're teaching about humanity, but which they shouldn't be in the first place because they're just interfering gibbons, right? But they don't want to tell the teachers. If this was me, right? God forbid. Can you imagine? Right, you lot. This is a knob. It would be awful, wouldn't it? Muff, knob, muff. No, right? But if it was me, welcome, children. Here's what's going to happen next week. Tell your mums and dads I'm running 3 sessions this week in the evening for 2 hours, the same as you're going to get. If they want to come in and see me do it, I'll do exactly the same with them as I'm doing with you. All right? Good. Go home and see your mum and dad and tell them that's what we're going to be doing. If they refuse to do that, if that is not built into their offering, they are ideologically captured and they want to get to your children so they can make them into mini activists for a sex-positive world where heteronormativity is a bad thing. This is the cue in full flow. Ha! This appalling ruling deals a further blow to parental authority. Having been already effectively lost the right to withdraw children from sex and relationships classes, parents are now prevented even from knowing what it is that the schools are teaching. Mau, 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 mau. This comes at a time when journalists, think tanks and MPs have been raising concerns about sexually graphic and age-inappropriate content being routinely used in sex education classes. I recently wrote an article about sex education for The Sun. I began with an example of a resource created by the Proud Trust, which is used in many schools. Pupils are given dice with words such as penis, vagina, anus and object on each side. We know what this is because I've told you about this before. It makes me laugh. I think that's a great game for an adult party. We're going to play a game, Auntie Brenda. Do you want to play? Oh, yes. What is it? Oh, it's easy. It's just dice. Right. Okay, roll the dice, Brenda. Right, okay. And go on, Uncle Harold. Roll the dice. Right. What have you got on yours? It says anus. Harold, what's on yours? Finger. Right, okay. Now, all you've got to do, the two of you between, is describe what exactly you can do with an anus and a finger. Oh, put the kettle on. If you can't discuss sex education classes seriously with your Auntie Brenda and your Uncle Harold, it shouldn't be in the school. I'm going to call it the Auntie Brenda, Uncle Harold litmus tester. If it wasn't so serious, it wouldn't be funny. Get that? Okay. Hilariously, this activity, The Sun deemed it necessary to edit the actual article to protect the blushes of its readers. It replaced penis and vagina with intimate body parts and swapped anus for bottom. So as things stand right now, children as young as 13 are expected to engage with content considered too explicit for adult Sun readers. The world's just really topsy-turvy. That's the word. And this is happening without their parents' knowledge or consent. Okay, so we're back to that again. The School of Sexuality Education claims to welcome transparency, but it will only allow its resources to be viewed by parents on a one-to-one basis and in a controlled setting. Nothing can be released electronically or circulated and copied physically. This prevents parents from being able to discuss concerns with each other. It censors a national conversation about what children are being taught in sex education classes. Sex and relationships are the most intimate aspects of human existence. A fundamental part of being a parent is having the authority to guide your children in such matters. It is vital that parents know what their children are being taught. Why didn't it raise red flags? Why didn't it raise red flag amongst teachers who, they've got they're stuck in an impossible situation. If they're not activist teachers, which are obviously the ones we need to identify and sack, if they're not activist teachers, they're stuck between a rock and a hard place, just like the rest of us are. Talking to people last night, they were saying, I teach, I can't speak up. I work in X, I can't speak up. I work in Y, I work for the council, I can't speak up, I'll lose my job. Right? So these activists have got to be got out. I've said this before a dozen times. But these teachers that are stuck between a rock and a hard place, who aren't activists and just want to bloody teach, which, by the way, isn't just a profession, it's a calling. Okay? So we've got to be careful here. We've got to be careful to find out who the activist teachers are and get them out. First of all, before we do that, we have to find out whether they're ill-informed or righteous cause mentality driven. Okay, this continuing unfolding drama of PSHE. I just don't understand why the providers haven't said to the schools, we will run sessions for parents, which will be exactly the same as the sessions we run for your children. This is included in the price. Dear God, how did the schools' heads fall for this? How did they fall for it? Oh, right, okay, that's right, we won't tell anybody. Yeah. How did they fall for it? They're not teaching anything that isn't available somewhere else. Anything. Or they've come up with some new revelation about how heteronormativity is bad. And look, let's keep the heat on. Rishi started. It's not nearly enough. He started. We keep the heat on. We keep things going. Don't let up. Come and be a warrior teacher. Join the team. We're having a meet-up, I think. Things are forming in the WhatsApp group. He's in Manchester. Let's all go to Manchester. It'll be great. I actually met one of my warrior teachers who I've not met before last night, and it was wonderful to meet this individual. Yeah, come and join the team. I'll see you later. Bye.